Hi, my name is Cameron McGinn, and for this assignment, I chose to go with the question, what are the ethical implications of sexual intercourse and reproduction in space given the risks? Um, so 3 to 5 concepts I chose to discuss that we have talked about in previous modules would be abortion, consent and sex, and disabilities. Um, when it comes to each of the three, consent and sex, consent remains fundamental. Any sexual activity must be consensual, and the confined and isolated environments that are given in space living increase power imbalances and stresses that can complicate clear consent. Some argue for reproductive freedom in space as a part of human rights, and others suggest reproductive activities might be banned due to protect individuals and collective safety due to unknown risks. Um, Given the risks, anyone choosing to conceive in space must be fully informed of potential harms to themselves or any future children. For abortion, in space communities, access to safe abortion in services may be limited. Ethical debates have arisen over this, whether pregnancies can or should be terminated in such conditions. Pregnant individuals may face pressures to continue or terminate the pregnancy based on mission safety or the community's well-being, which raises questions about reproductive autonomy. And the emotional toll of the reproductive decision could be heightened in isolation and the confined habitats that they live in space. Um, for disabilities, the risk of birth defects or disabilities may be higher due to the space conditions that are at stake, and this raises ethical questions about bringing children into an environment with elevated health risks. Some space communities lack sufficient resources to support children with disabilities, potentially impacting the quality of life for the children. Um, for the second, that would be risk. And understanding risk is central to evaluating the ethics of sexual intercourse and reproduction in space. In this context, it isn't just about probability, it's about the severity of potential harm, and who bears the consequences. A pregnancy in microgravity might lead to irreversible birth defects, and a medical emergency during childbirth could jeopardize both mother and child or even the mission at stake. Um, We don't know enough about risks yet in space to allow genuine informed consent, especially for pregnancy. It's ethically justifiable to place restrictions on reproduction in space. Uh, for number three, is there anything special about space that changes how we should approach procreation, sex, abortion, transhumanism, disability, mental health, or euthanasia? I think yes, space is a morally exceptional environment, and it significantly alters how we should approach deeply personal and social issues that are listed in the question. Um, while the core ethical values remain, space introduces extreme conditions like isolation and risk, that amplify the ethical tensions and those force reevaluation of how those values are applied. The one I want to focus on would be mental health. Mental health in space, I think, especially with pregnancy and reproduction and just sex in general in space, I think mental health plays a very important role in the whole thing. What changes in space? You're isolated, sensory deprivation, confinement, and interpersonal stress can intensify mental health crises as well, because untreated mental health could pose a risk not only to the individual, but to the mission stability and group survival. Mental health must be treated as a mission critical infrastructure, not just a secondary concern in space. And I agree, if your mental health isn't good, then you're not good. You affect the people around you. And since it is a small, tight-knit community that is on the aircraft in space. Everyone's mental health matters for sure at the end of the day. Um, for this question, I think sex in space, I know everyone has needs, but I do think it should be banned due to the reproduction and pregnancy and all the risk at stake, just because we don't know enough about the risks, um, to justify having sex and reproduction and pregnancy in space as a whole. So yeah.